In photography, travel, and life, we have certain expectations of what things will be like and how they'll go. Japan, for example, has become a major destination spot for tourists and photographers alike. So people will travel from all over the world expecting to get certain types of photos and have certain types of experiences. But in my experience, photographing Kyoto wasn't all it was cracked out to be. Kyoto is one of the most visited regions in Japan. It's got tons of beautiful temples, bamboo forests, and unique traditional views that'll give you that sense of being in a different world. There were moments and spots that were worth it, of course, but not nearly at the level you might expect. And strangely, I found myself enjoying taking simple, little street photos of random, uninteresting places more than the bigger attractions. Furthermore, there were some places that I didn't have expectations of that actually surprised me. This was my time photographing Kyoto. Kiyomizu-dera Temple. Is Kyoto really as crowded as they say? Short answer, yes. Being one of the most visited places in Japan, there are plenty of crowds even on a weekday. You may have heard or seen images of popular spots like Arashiyama, which has the bamboo forest and the river full of autumn foliage. I was initially supposed to go there, but I knew I wouldn't have made it in time for sunrise for an empty forest. Instead, my first stop was Kiyomizu-dera, one of Kyoto's must-see temples. The temple itself is located on a small mountain. I was already expecting the day to be filled with people, but I was more surprised about the difficulty getting there. Japan usually has good transportation, but the buses headed to the temple were all packed and filled to the brim. Waiting for a spot was impossible, so I sucked it up and took about an hour walk from my exit station. Besides the heat, the walk wasn't terrible. Many of the streets leading there looked interesting, and I personally liked exploring random neighborhoods and seeing the different roads. It was an uphill battle, but ultimately the view was worth it. The structures of the temple itself are huge. The cityscape of Kyoto in the background is nice, and there's a decent amount to explore. From tall pagodas to traditional buildings, the architecture itself was a work of art. There's a lot of history behind Kiyomizu-dera, much of which is outside my expertise, but I did hear of one old tradition. Supposedly, back in the day, if you jumped off the main stage and lived, your wish would be granted. This practice was eventually prohibited, but apparently about 85% of people survived. I saw the view from above, and personally, I don't think I'd take my chances. It was pretty high. When it came to photography, it was a bit difficult to pinpoint what exactly I wanted to photograph. I took a few basic scenery and architecture shots, but what troubled me was the tons of people there. Naturally, for street photography, some people are good to have since they'll give you subjects to work with, but too many people makes it difficult to isolate interesting subjects and include the environment. So many of my photos just came out as crowds next to a big building. Overall, I thought the temple was pretty cool, although I'm not sure if I'd visit again, simply because of the crowds and the difficulty getting there. If I ever do go back, I'd probably stop by a different area instead. 7.1. Yasaka Pagoda. If you're visiting the Kiyomizu-dera temple, there are a few nearby spots you can also explore. A popular photo spot you've probably seen online before is the Yasaka Pagoda. It's a unique picturesque shot of a tall pagoda in the middle of a traditional Japanese street. The surrounding buildings act as almost leading lines, creating an interesting perspective. This was one of the main shots I wanted when visiting Kyoto, but as it turns out, expectations don't often match reality. The Yasaka Pagoda shot is really only possible at sunrise. If you come at any other time, especially during sunset, the street will be filled with people. I got there around afternoon, and although sunny before, the skies were already getting cloudy. But even despite these conditions, the main perspective shot of the pagoda still looks somewhat decent. I tried really hard to angle my camera in a way that didn't have people in it, but those shots just don't look as good as the original image would have. I will say, this shot here came out quite well because the slight wall in the foreground makes it look like you're peering at the pagoda from the inside of a building. So I got a few decent shots of the pagoda but quickly moved on since the street itself didn't look like it would clear up. I'll admit I was a bit disappointed since this was the shot I was looking forward to, but there was nothing I could do about it. If you're visiting either Kiyomizu-dera or the Yasaka Pagoda, it's not all bad, it's just not what it seems. And personally, I recommend going in with few expectations, not thinking these places will look like how they do in a travel brochure. If you can do that, I still think you'll have a good time exploring the area. In addition to the temple and the pagoda, you can walk down Ninenzaka and Sanenzaka, which are streets filled with traditional buildings, food, coffee, and souvenir shops. I myself even picked up a coffee cup from my collection that I still use to this day. These streets were fun to explore and are quite photo-worthy on their own, although still packed. Overall, I'd rate the Yasaka Pagoda similar to the Chireta Pagoda we visited in Fuji Yoshida. 7.3. Amanohashidate. After my first day exploring Kyoto, I was exhausted. I battled crowds all day, getting from place to place was tough, and the views weren't nearly as spectacular as I was hoping. The next day, however, we had planned a visit to one of Japan's 3 scenic views, and that turned out to be a blessing in disguise. In Miyazu City of northern Kyoto exists a naturally formed sandbar, which not only makes for an incredible view, but one you can even walk across. This is amanohashidate. Just a few hours north of the main tourist spots, it doesn't typically come to mind when you think of Kyoto. Because of that, the town is much quieter, there's less people, and it's more peaceful. It was a much needed break from the hectic day I had before. To get to the main viewpoint, you'll need to take a chair zip line, which was honestly quite fun on its own. At the top, you'll see the sandbar, a completely unique shot of a zigzag land formation bridging the bay. The day I went was overcast, but that honestly made for the right kind of colors. A soft blue and deep greens, blended in with the town, trees, and sandbar was perfect. A little disappointed from my earlier adventures, I was kind of worried that Amanohashidate would be a letdown. But the very moment I looked over the bay, my first thought was, wow, it really does. I'd seen images of the view before online, so I had prior expectations of it, but I was still stunned. And I'd say, pictures don't quite do it justice. Most of my time at the viewpoint was spent trying to get the right angle for this shot. I wanted the perfect perspective and roll off for the foreground into the sandbar, and some of my shots were either too high or too low. My favorite is probably this one with the train coming in on the left and the ferry coming back in on the middle. It's a nice blend of things happening while still capturing the beauty of the view. I'll probably turn this one into a print, so look out for that if you're interested. So a bit out of the way and unideal lighting conditions, but uncrowded and still amazing. I'd give Amanohashidate a 8.6. Again, that's really high. Now, if you're in Amanohashidate, there are a few other things you can do besides just seeing the view. Many of the popular tourist spots, temples, and even train stations have what's called an eki stamp. These are free stamps with unique designs specific to the location that you can collect all over Japan. Carrying a small notebook and collecting stamps can be a fun way to bring something back as a memento of the places you traveled to. I just found out about it that day, so this was my first stamp. A circular image of the Amanohashidate sandbar. In addition to the view, Amanohashidate also has a ferry you can take around the bay. This is a cool and fun way to explore the area, but take caution. If you're there on a rainy day like we were, you will get soaked from all the wind and water. And there will be flocks of seagulls and even eagles hounding the ship for food. You can buy snacks to feed them or just watch as they fly around. That was pretty fun in itself. Overall, spending time photographing the popular spots in Kyoto left me with mixed feelings. You guys know, but I'm not a big fan of crowds, especially when I'm trying to get places. But they're a part of everything, and I'll do it if I have to, whether that's at a festival or a famous photo spot. So knowing this, I already had an inkling that visiting some of these popular Instagram spots wouldn't live up to my expectations. The timing of day, lighting, and all the stuff plays such a big factor into whether you'll get good photos. And I wasn't willing to go to extra lengths for some of these photo spots. Rather, they felt more like checklist spots. See once because you have to, but probably never come back to. Kiyomizu-dera was cool, but a pain in the ass to get to and get around. And visiting during a later autumn month would have probably been a prettier experience. The Yasaka Pagoda was a nice view, and the perspective on that street was pretty unique. But the overcast day, the crowd of tourists, and imagining what it would have looked like probably ruined it a little for me. I'd probably only ever go back if I was staying in Kyoto and could wake up for sunrise. The greatest gem here though was Amanohashidate. It was something that I didn't have super high expectations for, yet loved in person. The photos were great and easy to get. There weren't a lot of people as you'd have to travel out of your way to get there, and it was fun. And although the lighting wasn't perfect, the overcast clouds and cool tones perfectly matched the blues and greens of the scenery. It just goes to show that photography and travel are rarely ever what they seem. And if you plan to travel and take photos, it's best to keep your expectations flexible. It's likely that popular spots, although popular for a reason, are probably a little ruined because of their popularity. And hidden gems that you didn't expect to enjoy will pop up. So keep an open mind, don't expect too much, and enjoy your trip. If you enjoyed this article, check out some of the other travel photography ones I made of Japan and Cambodia. I'm also dropping a print for Amanohashidate, as well as a limited edition collage shirt. This is it right here, Dear Pacific. You can find it in the links down below. This is also your last chance to get the Fuji-san tee, as it will be going out of edition very soon. And I've got a new big project coming out soon. Look forward to it. Thanks for watching. Happy travels, happy shooting. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.